In our previous class session, I highlighted some of the reasons why manga get cancelled. From health issues to a dip in fan popularity, and even discord with the manga to publisher relationship. It is always a little heartbreaking when a manga ends before its time or not on the author's own terms. But for one reason or another, it can be explained rather logically. This is a business, and the people making decisions have to do what's best for said business. That being said, what about the successful manga series that never get adapted into anime? Yes, you've gotten to see the story play out, and the original piece of work is usually the purest form of what the creator wanted. But many fans still clamor to see these still art forms in full-paced action and animation. Sometimes we regret what we wished for. Looking at you, Promised Neverland Season 2. But most fans would take a less than stellar adaptation rather than no adaptation at all. So, why is your favorite manga, or light novel, webtoon, or manhwa, likely forced to forever be just another title stuck on your wish list of things to get adapted, while yet another story of some generic looking guy who gets transported to another world gets the full anime treatment? I'm Summers with Baka to Basics, and this is why manga don't get adapted into anime. Class is officially in session. In the Why Manga Get Cancelled video, I talked about the manga Bakuman. One of the arcs in that manga talks about the young manga artist creating a smash hit called Perfect Crime Party, or PCP. A tale about 3 elementary school kids pulling off perfect crimes around school. The manga was constantly atop the weekly rankings and was considered to get an anime adaptation, which just so happened to be the goal of our main 2 protagonists. But this dream was then denied when concern from the parents and young readers came to the forefront. The source material is too based in reality. Because the manga was so bound in realism, the crimes were rather easy to replicate. And when people began to imitate the crimes around town, the backlash was far too severe for the publishers to even recommend it for an anime adaptation. On the surface, it would seem like a very trivial reasoning for a manga to not be adapted, but real-world complications were enough to give anyone pause, and thus the manga in Bakuman was never adapted into an anime. Takehiko Inoue is the creator of not 1, not 2, but 3 of the highest rated manga of all time. His masterpiece Slam Dunk was given the anime treatment back in the 90s, and considering the point in time it was adapted, the animation is fine, but his art style is pretty much impossible for anybody to really do justice. One of his current manga, Real, is a story about 3 young men facing different trials and tribulations through life to become great basketball players, using Inoue's great passions for basketball once again. But unlike Slam Dunk, Real puts a focus on wheelchair basketball. This isn't to say somebody couldn't do this manga justice, but rather that the level of animation needed to pull it off is such a feat it's simply too daunting of a task. And that's not even to mention Vagabond, which is just drop dead gorgeous in its presentation. Along with its meditative, slow plot progression and iconic legacy, the visuals make anime studios doubtful when it comes to adapting Vagabond. A mediocre adaptation with such a brilliant and beloved story would likely create backlash that most people just would rather not have to deal with. The material sometimes for certain manga can be too graphic. Many shows with a graphic nature have been made into anime before. Elfin Lead uses over-the-top graphic violence and some nudity. Paranoia Agent follows the disturbing mind of a serial assailant. Hell, Attack on Titan shows people getting eaten alive as they beg for mercy. None of these, though, go to the depths that the manhwa Killing Stalking does. The manhwa depicts a disturbing relationship between a mentally unstable young man and his abusive captor. The dark take the manhwa has on BL romance genre consists of many scenes that make the reader shiver in fear and disgust, which, if you're reading, can be easier to digest or simply take a breather from. But in a show, it's all coming at once. Moreover, the story's moral ambiguity and take on mental illness would put any studio with the potential to adapt Killing Stalking in a rather uncomfortable situation, having to choose between showing the graphic nature of the original work and cleaning it up enough to be suitable for a young television viewing audience. And sometimes, the story is just better suited for manga and nothing more. Nejimaki Kagyu is a manga series that takes full advantage of its medium by bending the space of every single panel of its manga. These spiral motifs and unorthodox character designs of Nakayama Atsushi's masterpiece create a visual world that flows together with the pages of the manga. The manga uses the fact that it's a manga to its advantage, and thus the effect it has on you as a reader would be diminished if it wasn't used in the manga format. It may be possible to use a manga format in an anime, but once again, this is another thing that is asking a ton of a studio to take a chance on. And now, possibly the most asked for manga by fans would be that of Inio Asano's psychological horror manga, Goodnight Punpun. It's a tragic coming-of-age narrative following the naive protagonist Punpun Onodera as he discovers the dark and nastier truths about adulthood. While the manga was praised endlessly for its relatable characters and unorthodox themes, the story is so emotionally complex and visually unique that turning it into a worthy anime would once again just be a monumental task. The bigger reason why Asano's masterpiece is difficult to adapt is Punpun's silent protagonist, Onodera, never speaks, which is tricky to portray in an audio-visual format. Yet making Punpun talk detracts from the narrative effectiveness. 2021's Ranking of Kings pulls this off with masterful animation and direction, using the deaf-mute Boji's emotions and allowing the other characters around him to carry narrative dialogue throughout. But seeing as how Punpun is a story about his own personal journey, the task might not be one that could be done as well as Ranking of Kings was. And lastly, and possibly most frustratingly, is simply that the time for an adaptation has passed. When a manga is at the peak of its popularity, that is the time when it would be most likely to get the adaptation treatment. Light novels such as Mushoku Tensei seem to be an outlier to this line of thinking, but generally, if a work is completed without an announcement of plans to make an anime, then it might as well be good and dead. Take Toshiaki Iwashiro's Poseidon, for example. It's a really fun story, captivating characters, ran for 4 years, and was actually finished to completion. However, it was revealed that the manga was constantly at the bottom of popularity rankings, and thus deemed not to have enough appeal to a wider audience. This, coupled with the fact that it ended in 2010, makes any hope of an adaptation rather unlikely, even though after it was completed, it seemed to gather a rather widespread cult following online. Just like when a manga gets cancelled, there are numerous amounts of reasons for any piece of work not getting adapted then into an anime. Many of these properties talked about today could theoretically still be adapted into a fully fleshed out anime. But for now, these are the major reasons behind why these and many other manga haven't been adapted yet. All we can do is enjoy them for what they are and be happy we have these stories at all. Because as mentioned before, sometimes you have to be careful what you wished for. I'm looking at the 10 of you out there that were really excited for the X-Arm adaptation. I feel like Johnny's putting something on the screen right now, so with that, that's all I have for today's session. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Also, leave a comment down below about some of your favorite works that have yet to get that sweet, sweet anime adaptation. I've been Summers with Baka the Basics, and I'll see you next time that class is in session.